shows
you know, I volunteered for nursing home, so I said, give me a
that
call.
is what the RFP was,
And it's like my whole
1275,
head
the
was
actual
full
cost.
of clear
1640
snot.
plus 10%.
And I was coughing.
So that's the 10% of this,
Yes,
bringing it to $18. Okay,
Yes,
all right.
Sarah
I
said
think that's
she
how it
was.
I was looking at that, that's why. Yeah,
And
so
on the
I was
day
hoping we weren't looking at
before
this, and again,
then the
there's
next
10%
day,
on it, because this is
me
supposed to be the actual
and
price
5
here.
ladies that played
So I think it's
Thursday,
10%
Friday
of that,
night, we all had
which
it.
be, what,
$1.64.
It's like, I'm not playing cards
164,
anymore.
17, yeah, or 160, whatever it is.
Had to be.
15%, okay, all right.
So I will, if we're not done by at 12:30, but we do have some other staff here that can help answer questions if there are cases, well, just be with the water sewer stuff.
Okay,
And then, we have somebody here from the swim booster club. And then, other staff, if there's other questions, I should be able to help with that. So, just so you know, if I sneak out the door, that's why, cause I'm going to baseball game.
off the wall, are we rained out again?
We are going
No,
to,
they're going. The players left an hour ago.
Yeah, they're supposed to play what, at 2?
Like two-ish, I would say it's probably gonna be 2:30,
Okay,
if I'm
Alright.
guessing for.
and Sarah, we are going to stand up when you walk out that door, and we are going to cheer and tell you, you better take it down there for those kids.
Let's hope, yeah, that'd be,
They've earned it.
let's hope we have a long, fun day, right?
Yep.
And I can't get this, I don't know what's going on, this is acting up, so it might not pop up on the screen.
Well, at least I haven't brought my dog in here and she broke it.
You're welcome. I'm not saying.
I have no idea. It is, this thing is finicky. There's a couple copies of this.
Remember that dental users? Dental users?
Yes.
Eli from St. Paul made a couple changes to one of them.
Oh, okay.
So I'll send, I mean, he already got it done, but
Yeah.
I'll send it back to you on the original.
Sure.
So I can pass the other
Yep.
on. I just didn't have time on whatever day.
Yeah.
Wednesday.
That's probably thanks to you. So that was what last week.
I think we have one more when you send it.
Do you and your family take summer vacations?
Not as a family. In order for me to get the whole family together, we take, like Labor Day weekend, or this year it's actually a little bit beforehand. We'll go up to my land up by Mille Lacs and have a fun weekend, all of them.
That's almost more fun anyway.
What's that?
That's more fun anyway.
Oh, yeah, so they put on a feast for them and feed them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a good time, right? Because otherwise, during the holidays, they just, I mean, they have people at the places,
Right.
so let's just pick a day
Yeah.
and it works out well.
Are you right on the wax
No,
then, or
no, I'm
just?
off around by the golf course.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And, no, I can't afford a taxes on wax.
Who can? Yeah.
All right, it's 12 o'clock. Call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with
Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Move the agenda.
Second?
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all four say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. I guess we'll have discussion now on the garbage hauling contract with Jim's. Someone gonna start, or where do we go with this? Or is this attorney business?
I just kind of outlined some of the issues that we had, just to make sure we went through all of them, so I guess, you can just start. I think I gave all the data for the beginning for the RFP rates versus actual. So if you're good with that, we can move on to the next item. I would just kind of make sure we touch all those items, and then feel free to chime in.
Is the attorney okay with it?
I'm okay with it. It would be up for the council approval. It did come to our attention in negotiating the contract that the RFP, or the rates that were in the RFP, were different than the actual rates that would be asked the citizens to pay for. So we wanted to make sure that we had all the information and that was provided to the council. You will see that city staff did put together a spreadsheet that shows the difference between the RFP and the actual rates. If the council has any concerns, this is definitely the time to discuss them now, but we do not have to have any further conversation on this matter if the council is comfortable moving forward.
So it's all three bidders had different RFPs compared to the actual?
That is correct.
All right, I'm good with it then, cause
Right.
I don't have an issue. If there was, this guy was here, and this person was here, and this person was here, but it's straight across the board, it looks like to me. Anyone
Okay.
anyone else have discussion on this?
I'm okay with it. I guess my question was, from the last time that you bid, did you bid it accordingly to this way?
I just did not include Minnesota solid waste tax, and that's the way the other bidders all bid everything too.
Okay.
And because that's not my money, I mean, that goes directly to the Minnesota solid waste. That was the only thing that wasn't included. I don't have any other fees or anything. That is the only thing that was above the quote.
Okay.
Good.
I have one question. Some of these people didn't have the recyclables on. How are you gonna handle that?
They're contacting us, and, cause
Okay.
it was just easier to deliver cards to
All right.
everybody than with the timeline with Republic picking them up before they should have.
Okay.
So that way, it was just easier to deliver them all, and then people are contacting us.
All
that
right.
Don't want them,
All right.
we're just picking them up.
All right. Next was, go ahead.
I personally have a problem with allowing people to not do recycle.
Are they charged the same then, or how's that?
Minnesota state statute, I have to charge the same if they recycle or they don't. That's the way the law is. You can't reward somebody for not recycling, is the way it's.
And that's across the board.
If they don't recycle, they're charged for
They're still
recycling
charged
price.
a $4 recycling
Correct,
fee.
correct.
Correct.
Yep.
And I understand they're still charged it. Unfortunately, human nature is there will be ones who the recycle will overfill their trash, and then my house, my yard, gets covered with soda and beer cans when they have a party.
Yeah, but when they overfill their cans, they get charged
If they're
additional.
not gonna get charged, I'm saying, you have the can, and then when you litter because you filled your garbage can 6 feet above the rim, we can do something about that.
Yeah, and they will be billed extra if, you know, the same way the other offender did. If somebody continuously has bags of trash extra or, you know, stuff like that. That's just the common nature of everybody. And like I said, it would be fine with me if everybody recycled, but I'm not gonna enforce that, cause it's gonna make people mad at me for something that, I mean, as the city, you guys could do that, but that's a whole nother, I don't know how you'd start that.
They have the can. If they don't wanna use it, they don't use it. If they wanna fill their can over and get charged more, that's their option.
Well, then my question is, how has Foley handled recycle cans? Have they been required to have their recycle
Yeah.
cans?
Yeah.
What we wanna make sure is that everybody has a recycle bin. That's what we're talking about with mandated recycling. So historically, the contract has always required that everybody have it. There were times it was actually free, built into just the price of garbage, and then you got the recycling can. I think it's important for the city to make it available and easy for them to do.
I've been hearing a lot of controversy on what's recyclable and what isn't. They tell me that all plastics aren't recyclable. So if they don't have that seal on there, is that considered trash?
If it doesn't have the recycling
Yeah.
emblem, yep, it's considered
Okay,
trash.
it's
Yep.
gotta have the recycling thing on it, okay.
Yeah, and we take all numbers 1 through 9, some companies don't, but yes, we take all plastic with the recycle number, excluding plastic bags.
Yeah.
Those are the thing that no recycling processing center wants because it gums up their mission.
Yeah, they tell me that all plastic's not the same, so some of it's not recyclable.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I would just add, the city of Foley does not have an ordinance that would require recycling. We have it as a part of our contract that
Yeah.
recycling will be picked up. But right now, we would not punish individual citizen for not recycling. As part of the state statute, it would govern cities and how they control waste. We are supposed to encourage recycling, and this is one way we would do that. If an ordinance change is desired by the council, I think that should be handled separately from this conversation, because there can be positives and negatives with an ordinance like that as well.
I agree.
Yep.
Online payments and billing cycles, was that gonna be an option in the future?
Yep, and we're working on it. It's almost done. We've been working on it. We've been trying to update our software system. So within a month, we should have that up and running, so.
Do you foresee it being a monthly bill or a
Yeah.
quarterly bill?
We bill monthly.
Okay. Discussion on free swaps for cart size changes. What is that? Is that like someone gets a 60 and they wanna go back down to a 30 or what?
So the question came up from a council member is to allow for a few extra weeks because of the short implementation window of this new contract. And I think Jim's is agreeable to like July 15th.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's mainly a billing thing. It's just, most of the time, we never charge anybody to swap a garbage can out, but we don't just drive there and do it. We do it when we do the route. So that way, it's an economical thing. That way you don't have any extra driving. So, but yeah, a couple weeks would be really great to get that figured out. And by that time, we're gonna deliver all the garbage cans Tuesday. And hopefully, because we got over 60% of the people that replied to our QR code or called or returned our letter. So maybe by then we'll be at, 75 to 80%. So
Okay.
let's get in there.
Okay,
I think it's just to, in case mail gets returned, you have a little harder time tracking somebody down, just gives a little extra time.
July 15th?
Requests from 1169 Golf Court to use Waste Management as their provider since they are an employee of the company.
Maybe I'll let the attorney take that one.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So how our ordinance is set up is that we do not require individual citizens to use our selected hauler. However, what the city does do is issue a license to an exclusive hauler. So that means that one hauler, presumably Jim's after the contract is approved, can come into the city to collect waste and recycling. However, if an individual citizen does not want to use Jim's, they could bring their waste to another transfer facility or elsewhere. That company, so another garbage hauler other than Jim's, could not come to their house though and collect the garbage because they would not have a license to collect garbage within the city.
So with that said, they will have to move their garbage themselves.
That is correct. So that individual resident would be responsible from taking their garbage from their house to a transfer facility or elsewhere.
Yeah, if I may add, I do not recommend we would allow this. Based on just the transition alone and some of the comments and phone calls we've received, it could turn into a problem where we'd have lots of people
we
wanting
could
to
see a
use.
lot of people doing something
Yeah,
different.
I don't think that also, I think the pricing that we're given to is for the exclusivity of having one hauler too. So I wouldn't recommend we allow that. because of, you know, those reasons, and I think it could just be a nonstop.
Yeah, but the attorney just said they have that option,
No,
the way it's written.
no, they can't come out and collect it from their house,
Right.
though. Yeah, they can, if they choose not to have it, that's fine, but no, this
Correct.
person wants Waste Management to come and pick it up.
And I think what Sarah is referring to is that we shouldn't change our ordinance to allow multiple haulers to come
Right.
in. Our ordinance should stay the same, that one hauler, for now, is able to come into the city and to collect waste. Other
Okay.
haulers would not be allowed to.
So basically just, if they don't want curbside service, they can haul it garbage away themselves to a transfer facility or wherever they're,
But with we have one contract hauler, they either have to stay with ours or find it where to dispose of this.
They would not be allowed to have cans or dumpsters from another hauler.
And that's the
Has
way
to
it
be picked
should
up.
be. We have one contract,
Mhm.
they should abide by that.
This came up before in the last, negotiations, and we didn't allow that. If they didn't want.
So we should-
We weren't letting him have another hauler come in,
right.
so.
But we should revamp our ordinance,
We wouldn't
No,
need
we
to.
don't need to.
no?
Nope, our
Oh,
ordinance is
okay.
sufficient. So the individual resident, like I said, can take their waste elsewhere if they choose to. They just can't have a waste company or waste
But
hauler
they have
come
to
in.
remove it.
Yep, the
Okay.
individual resident then would be responsible from taking the waste from their resident to the
Okay.
appropriate place.
And I'm assuming the prices are good year by year, what we're starting with. Correct. Is there any other discussion or something before we approve the final contract? No?
The only thing I had concern with was the holidays, and I understand you pick up the day after whatever holiday you don't. Correct?
The
Yeah.
4th of July, we're actually gonna work that day,
Yeah,
because it'll be the first day of us picking up,
Whichever,
so it would be a lot to
Okay.
do.
That's
so we can
Thursday.
figure it out.
Thursdays is the day.
Thursday is the
Yep.
day, yep.
Okay.
So, but we are gonna work, we work Labor Day, Memorial Day, and 4th of July, but we'll notice, we'll
Yeah,
tell
I'd say-
Sarah notice that what we're gonna do, so.
Typically, we work directly with the hauler on those notifications so that we can get those out on our website and let people know, on the calendar and so forth.
Well, let's have a good working relationship.
Hearing no other, I guess we're gonna need a motion. Or, you're good, Ashley, with everything else? Got all your stuff sent to you that you needed?
Yep, so
Perfect.
I have no other comments.
Perfect, thank you. I'd entertain a motion to approve the final contract with Jim's as the city's garbage hauler.
I
I'll ma-
move that we accept the final
Sec-
contract with Jim's.
second,
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all four say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Discuss approved site plan for blow molded expansion.
I can take that one, Mr. Mayor. We had a planning commission meeting and this one, went fairly quickly. So I'm just asking if the council would take the planning commission's recommendation to approve this site plan. They are doing a addition onto a warehouse, actually in the rear of their facility. Councilmember, Gondek and Councilmember Mathewitz were at the meeting as well. It was a good discussion, no concerns by planning at all. So I'm just asking the council to formally adopt that so that they can, get their permits finalized and start work.
the only question I had reading through this was the drainage thing, talking to Mark, that was all under control?
Yep.
With the water thing, that was my only question, and I guess that's okay.
Any discussion? Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion to approve the site plan for blow molded.
So move.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? All four say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Discuss approve special event at Foley Pool by Swim Booster Club.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor and Council, we have a couple reps here from the Booster Club, and I think I provided you some information in the packet on what they're looking to do. We've also had some discussion with staff and the attorney, so I guess, I'll open up if you have questions. I do think this is something we can work with, but we wanted to make sure you guys were okay with it. We do need formal action that you'll allow it.
So I'm assuming there's no swim lessons on this day you're looking at?
We would work around any swim lessons. This would be only during an open swim
Oh,
portion.
perfect.
Yeah.
Alright, I didn't know what time the swim lessons run from, so I apologize.
Yep, and the tentative plan would be to run with the open pool, open swim schedule that's already in effect, and then outside of the pool area, maybe in that back parking lot, we would have, you know, a grilling thing, a fundraiser, we would front the money for, you know, the supplies and things, maybe have activities with the big girl swimmers that the little girls would wanna be a part of, and use it as a fundraiser, and then all the money would go into our newly formed swim booster club.
I think it's a good program. Liability is the only my question.
Yep.
Everything inside the pool is covered by our liability, correct? Anything outside, they would
Yeah,
have to, they would have to cover that?
We do have insurance on the pool operations, so the open swim stuff would be our coverage. I guess I defer, we do have an indemnification agreement included with this, regarding city liability. So that was something the attorney and I talked through.
And as we get into the specifics of what the event looks like, we can certainly talk about more about any liability that might need to be discussed. I think right now we wanted to see if the council was open to this, and if there was any concerns, we would work, staff and whoever from this booster club would work to make sure that the city is adequately covered though.
I'm for this,
Okay.
event.
Absolutely.
And I'd also like the council to just be clear if they're comfortable with, if the lifeguards wish to donate their time, if the city were to, it'd probably be a contracted thing where we'd make a donation for that time instead of paying the employee to the booster club. I wanna make sure the council's comfortable with that. We can do that. We just cannot make a monetary donation outside to an athletic booster club, if I'm understanding correctly.
Yes, not exclusive to an athletic booster club, it would be to any nonprofit or separate organization. When the city spends money, it has to be for a public purpose, and the Attorney General has determined that making a direct contribution to a private organization does not serve a public purpose. However, there is case law and Attorney General's opinions that have stated that in exchange for work completed, the cities can make contributions to private organizations. So for work completed as a lifeguard or other tasks, we can make that donation.
And I'm assuming most lifeguards are all part of the swim booster club?
Yep.
All right, I'm not against any of that.
I'm all for it.
I think it's a great event. We as a city should work with whatever we have to do to make it work, and
Yeah, I would just ask in the council motion that, you know, you're okay with having the event and, you know, direct staff to put in the appropriate insurance, protocols prior to.
If the fee is raised for the entrance, that would have to, we can't give them the extra money, correct?
Unfortunately, I don't think we'd be able to, because that would be looked at more as a direct
Right.
donation. It's not saying that we don't support it or we wouldn't want to, but our hands are just tied with
I
the
just, there was a
statute.
question on that, and
Yeah.
then I just assumed that we can't.
Mhm.
But there's
So
nothing to
could
say
they
they
get the-
could, to donate, they could charge their own fee. We could charge our fee and they could charge their own fee for the other activities. you
Correct.
know.
Yep.
Does that make sense? Yep, shaking heads, yep.
And then we need approval to close the parking lot to the east of the pool. Probably gonna
Yep.
set up like a tent and tables and all of that.
We could take care of that in the June, where are we at here? I don't know, this is.
July 9th?
Yeah, at
Yep.
that meeting, so if you guys kinda wanna figure out a little bit more at that, before that meeting and kinda get a layout, we can get that
Yeah,
approved.
that would work. We just wanna make sure the council's comfortable so we don't do all sorts of legwork, you know, that might be of concern, but
Sure.
it sounds like that's not an issue.
So we're looking for just a motion to approve the special event right now?
Yeah, why don't you just motion to approve so we know we have formal action that they can at least go back to their people with and continue making plans.
Sounds good.
I'll make that motion.
second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve a special event at the Foley Pool, by the Swim Booster Club. Any further discussion?
I'd just like to say that at our meeting on July 9th, that we would have a rough draft on it.
Sounds good. If not, any further discussion? All for say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Thank you. Discussion on winter sewer rate lock, winter sewer rate lock.
Okay, Mr. Mayor and Council, I'm gonna have Katie grab Stacy, cause she's been working on this as well. So we had the issue with the June bills having the wrong lock number. They calculated correctly, but they pulled the wrong data. We are in the middle of a transition to our new software system, so the July billing is expected to be done on the new Civic system. Stacy and Sarah have trained probably 28 hours this week or something on the new system. It's been a long road to get here, but the good news is we're very confident we can make that adjustment, according to talking to those programmers, that we can make that adjustment so that it will be correcting the June billing and then moving forward with the correct process in July. There's a lot more capabilities with this new system than our old system could provide. So a couple things we need to deal with today. First, we'd like a waiver of late fees for the July 2024 billing. We don't want people that were undercharged or overcharged to have any issue with, any adjustment on their bill. So that would be the first action item we'll ask for. The second is the problem that I discussed with you about the fact that the locked rates are higher than the actual usage we're seeing. And we expect to see a similar situation with the next bill calc because we've just had a lot of rain. And people have not used as much outdoor water as they may be used to using as compared to prior summers. So what we are looking at is a potential change in the ordinance that would say the locked sewer rate or the lower of the actual. So if the actual comes in lower than their locked sewer, they pay sewer based on that actual. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah, it does, but I don't like it amending that ordinance because we got to this point because of this, that they wanted a locked rate. Now, just because it rained this year, we're gonna amend it next year again when it goes the other way?
Well, so that's the other discussion as soon as Stacy can get in there. So the new system will allow us to do an average, which we think is probably the best course of action moving forward in the long term. And that would take like 4 months. Average it out, and then your lock is based on the average of 4 months. So what we had happen is we had a lot of people that knew this lock was happening and really tightened up their January usage.
And that's what.
Yep. And so if we make that change to an average now, we're gonna have some upset people because they made some significant changes in habits that month. If we don't change it to the lower, like the ordinance that you have in front of you, and I have not posted this is just a draft for discussion. If we were to do that, we're gonna have the same amount of people that are gonna be adversely affected. It is about an even split. So I wanna make sure you understand that if we do that, it's gonna adversely affect a lot of other people and probably in both billing cycles. Because we're continuing to see this lots of rain, not very much outdoor watering and so forth. I completely understand that having the locked rate win and lose, and there is a revenue impact on this too. I guess I'm looking to the direction of the council, how you wanna handle that.
Well, I'm concerned about the revenue loss. I mean, this is a pilot program and we still don't have any concrete numbers.
Well, that's just it, we're
We lost $12,000, $12,000 is the first month. Whatever way you look at it, it's about $12,000 in sewer revenue, compared to last year. Now, last year was a drought year, too.
I think you gotta take the loss, you gotta stick to, why do we do this if we're gonna, we don't like this, one billing cycle in, well, we gotta change it. That's just my opinion on it. If we don't like Jim's tomorrow, we're gonna switch it tomorrow, what he's doing. That's apples to apples, isn't it? Yep.
Okay, so what I have gathered from the calls that we've been getting from the residents of town, they're questioning why they're having to pay higher sewer than the water that they even used. That's the main question that we are getting from the residents of town. So when they're calling and they're looking at their gallons of water used, say it's 1,000, but they've only used 500 gallons worth of You know, they've used 1,000 gallons worth of water, but last time they used 1,500 gallons worth of sewer. Their question is, why am I getting billed higher for the water? Why am I getting billed higher from the sewer on the water that I didn't even use? So that's when we pick a month and we use that 1 month, that is where the confusion and the questions are coming in. Versus, I don't know if you guys have talked about the average. Okay, so when talking with Banyan and with our new civic system, both have indicated that they usually use an average. Whether it be a 6-month average, whether it be a 4-month average, the average will take into consideration if you've got a leak 1 month and that happens to be the leak, the month that you choose to use, then that person's stuck paying that price on the leak that came in that month. Or if you've got a family of 5 that moved out that 1 month and a family of 1 that moved in, now they're stuck paying that for the family of 5 when they're truly only a minimum water user. Or if you've got somebody who's on vacation that month and they're not using that much water that month, or there's so many different scenarios that could happen, versus if you take an average, then if you've got people coming over on vacation, you know, coming home from college, people coming over for the holidays, then, you know, that there's just a lot of different things that could go into the calculation of the average. You've got some people who are, you know, we're only gonna use, nobody's bathing, we're only taking quick showers this month because we know that that is the month that we're gonna get charged on. So if you take the average, you're more likely to catch the people who are gonna be gone for the holidays, or who have people over for the holidays, who had a leak that month, so when you average it out over 4, 5, 6 months versus picking 1 month, that's what a lot of our Banyan is seeing and Civic is seeing, that's why cities do that, instead of just picking 1 month. If that
Yeah, makes
kind of is
sense.
what you were talking about.
Yep.
So,
I just wanna add too, if we do make the correction and we don't make a change of the lower of the two, how many people are we gonna have affected again? What is it, 200 or something?
yeah, so there was probably about
Probably about.
281.
Yeah, okay.
So the question is, if we go with this, is that gonna adversely affect the cost again, the revenue?
Sure.
It'll be lower again.
You're gonna be just swapping one for the other, cause they were, what were they, 10 people apart? It's very
Yeah.
close. We calc the whole overall usage and what was it, like 10,000 gallons or it was hardly any difference, whatever way we did it. So we're gonna still be at that 12,000 in loss.
It'll just be the
12,000 a
opposite.
month,
That's a $12,000 loss for this month, yeah,
every month? We don't know.
we don't know. We anticipated, you know, some of that, which is why there was a bigger increase across the board.
What is the council's feelings on this? First of all, can we even approve this? We need a 4/5.
For an ordinance, I didn't post the ordinance.
No.
I didn't know what your thoughts were on this, so I did not post for this ordinance for approval, but I do need direction on how to correct the July billing. You know, if you're okay with waiving late fees, you wanna go back to the way it's originally, that's fine, but I just want you to understand, we're gonna have 281 accounts adversely affected that are gonna get a higher bill. And I just want you to know that could continue throughout the season, the way the weather patterns have been going.
So we're gonna have to keep changing this user lock rate every time somebody complains?
That's why we're here today, we're trying to discuss what is the best solution.
Go ahead, Mark.
When you talk about the average, it's not the most common, it is used amongst some of our neighboring cities we work with. A lot of them do January, February, March, I will say. I mean, that's information we can gather, so it's used out the cities we're with, so. And one thing on the loss, we did lose our biggest water user and our 3rd biggest water user, so we gotta keep that's affecting some of the 12,000, you know, that's some of it there. My water use is down 2 million gallons, so.
For the year or for a month?
I'll get the numbers for the next meeting, but there's a big cost there, so.
Like it's Pouch Tech closing was one, but then Genio
That was
as well,
yeah.
was a pretty significant one. So yeah, that is a good point.
Yeah, but I mean, the averages might be fair.
So do we have to change our ordinance
You will
to
have to.
reflect this?
You would, I'm
there-
hesitant to do it right away, right now, because you gotta realize we have people that really locked in that January month.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's up to you, we're just presenting information. First thing we need right now is we need to know how you want us to correct these bills. Do you want us to correct them as is right now, or are you okay with us doing the lower of the two? That's my first question.
I'm fine with waiving the late fees. But I'm not in favor of the lower of the two, cause then we gotta change the ordinance.
I'm okay with waiving the late fees.
That's the way I feel, the late fees, they're owed that at this point, in my mind. But I wasn't for winter rates to start with, and I'm still not, but we gotta come up with something.
Do we have the capability to even average? Is that even part of the discussion right now? I mean, with this new software or whatever we're talking about?
So with communications with the new software program, there is a lot more opportunity for us to run different reports and to use different information to calculate the bills. So yes, we could, depending upon what you want to do, there is a spot on the bill that we can do an adjustment. So if you do go forward and say you want to use the lower of the two, we can definitely get the adjustment on there. If you wanted to move forward and say, yep, unfortunately, we picked January as the lock-in gallon usage, then our new system will calculate pulling the February bill, because that will show the usage that was on
For
the
January.
January. That sounds like it's a fairly easy thing on their software to do. That's not something that we can do here in office. That's a software thing that we do need to pull in the civic provider to help us with that.
And
So-
you're indicating that the average, using an average rate is better than a lock rate of January, February?
Well, and part of the reason is like the items that Stacy discussed, cause those have also been brought to our attention. You know, I had a leak this month, well, I should get an adjustment. Well, I moved into a new house, I should get an adjustment. I mean, rather than dealing with all these individual changes, that would be a easier way to try to bring those in if it's an average. You know, and may not be perfect, but it's closer.
Being fair to everybody, but are we still going to meet our requirements that we need to meet?
That is something we're still working with, like, we don't know exactly, I can't predict the weather patterns and how much revenues, you know, I can get an idea, but that's something we're gonna have to work through, which is, you know, why, we said this is probably gonna take a few adjustments, I don't know exactly what's the best solution, so as long as you understand that, we'll have more information at the budget cycle, because once we get through those summer months, you know, come early fall, we can at least have a better handle on what the opposite kind of season did for us, because last year we had an extreme one way, and this year it's the other, so far.
So whatever we decide now, we can change it again,
We
according to
can.
what our needs may be?
We can, I mean,
Okay.
it's not ideal,
Alright.
we would hope to figure out what it is and stick
Right.
with it, but. I
So
think
With
the
that
average is-
scenario, then I'd go with the average.
Well, we can't, we're just discussing right now, what we
Right.
need to motion is to waive late fees, correct?
Waive late fees, and if you're thinking we just let it sit as is, and you're not ready to make a change, then that's what I need to know, and then we'll have to bill that accordingly. With the understanding that we're gonna have probably 281 adversely affected accounts. Right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's already in. So, there's no change needed on the ordinance right now, because the ordinance is correct, we didn't pull the right number on our side.
Right.
The number we pulled for calculation was incorrect.
Right. Well, I make the motion that we waive the late fees for the July 2024 billing.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all four say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. So now you need to bring forward next in July's billing if we want to discuss going to leaving it the same, the ordinance, or going to an average?
There's nothing we have to do now?
No.
So our next billing will happen the first week of July. So we will need to know if we're using the lesser of the water or
Oh,
of the
okay.
gallons, because that would,
Lesser of the usage or the January usage?
Or the average?
No, not the average, Gary.
no, not the
No.
average this time.
Okay.
No.
That would be like
Okay.
next year probably, if we wanted to do an average.
Right.
Yeah, that would be next year for average, but there was some concern about using that lesser. So right now, the motion is we just do it as the ordinance is written, knowing that we're gonna adversely affect 281 accounts. Just like we adversely affect 265, the first, it's gonna
Right.
flop the other way.
Right.
It's gonna happen, somebody's gonna be upset, period. And we need to see how it's gonna go, and I think we have to go on the way we set it up to start. Otherwise, we're shooting at a moving target. So we set it up for that 1 month, and it's gonna piss some people off, and it's gonna make others happy.
Yeah.
We can't change that.
So do we need to motion that, or?
No, it's already in
No.
the ordinance,
Right.
Okay, so we're just leaving the ordinance as is
Yep.
for the July billing.
correct?
June
Right.
billing?
We'll
July
use the
billing?
July billing.
June usage, correct?
Use the lower of the lock rate, is that what we're
No,
saying?
no,
No.
no.
That's the question, because we do have residents that have moved out of town. A large family lived in the house in January. That would be the usage that's going to be used, even if a single family person moved in and they're on the minimum. So if you leave it as is, those types of situations would definitely be the ones that are going to be reaching out and not happy with
Okay.
that.
That's what we're saying, there are multiple accounts that will be adversely affected. So we will have to,
I guess what
Deal
is
with
the,
that.
what is the top of the mark adversely affected and what's the bottom? Are we talking $2 or are we talking $200?
some of them are hundreds, but most of them are a few dollars. But we do have
Yeah.
we have some significant ones.
And is it go the other way on the opposite side? Yeah. So I mean, I think you're splitting hairs here.
The only ones that would be severely negatively affected would be the new people moving in. I mean, if you've got the same person that's lived there for the last 10 years, that's a different scenario than you've
Correct.
got new people moving in, or a leak, if that happened that month, then that person would end up paying the repercussions of the leak for the 4 months over the summer.
Are these all residentials that are complaining, or are we talking apartments or trailer?
The residentials are the
Okay.
only ones that,
So does the council want to change the ordinance to go to stay the same rate for the winter sewer charge, or do you wanna do the lower of the two for the next billing cycle?
Personally, I say stay with, the way we've got it set.
Yeah, I'm for,
We made that decision,
Yeah.
we can't keep
can't keep changing.
changing it.
I think we need to see
We need to see.
the
and
data before we do that, so we keep it the same. Because I think we are, splitting hairs until we find, and this is still a pilot program.
Correct.
We don't have all the information yet, so.
Gary,
Yep, I'm
Good.
good with that.
does that need to be
I mean,
motioned?
we worked hard to get
No.
to where we are for them.
Yeah. Okay, so.
We're not changing the ordinance.
correct?
No.
Correct, thank you. Any other discussion on this? Am I looking at? All right, other business, any other business to come before this meeting?
I do, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
It seems to be a misconception of the people out in Foley that are people that work at City Hall. It seems that people come down and holler and scream at the people that are working behind the counter. I find this disturbing. They're hired to do a job, and they don't need to be yelled at or called names or anything like that. They're doing the job that the council directs them to do. And it's been brought up a few times where people, whether it's a water sewer bill or a garbage bill, they feel as though they come down and they need to yell at the people behind the counter. Well, that has to stop. They're doing the job that we direct them to do. If you need to yell at somebody, you can yell at me, okay? To have our people upset because they're doing the job the best they can do, and to be upset at the end of the day is uncalled for. So the people that have come down to City Hall and rant and raved and got on their soapbox, direct that to me, okay? Our people are doing a great job, and they don't need to be disrespected. We need to be more civil, especially in these times where, whether it's federal, state, or local, everybody's wound a little bit too tight, okay? Don't take it out on the people behind the counter. You can take it out on me. You can call me, you can email me, I'll come to your house, but don't take it out on the people.
I agree with you, Rick, but I think too, that might be some of our fault. Thank God I don't get a lot of phone calls, but if I do, I don't tell them to go down to City Hall and talk to the girls. I said, I will get you an answer. I'll get back to you. I'll find out what to do. I'll get you an answer. So rather than us direct them down here to solve the problem, tell them that we'll get back to you and do what we can.
I'm not directing anybody to come down. People, they get on the phone when they have an issue and they call and they start yelling, or they come down here to yell at them.
But that's part, I mean, we can eliminate some of that by getting a phone call.
Let's just
If you
be a
get
little
one.
bit more respectful.
Yeah, I don't know if we can
Call me.
control that or not. How are you gonna stop that?
Well,
I know your feeling, I know it shouldn't be, that's the way society is today. They've lost some sociabilities, you know.
that's what I'm saying. You can call me, you can yell at me. Don't yell at our people. They're doing a great job. With that, Mr. Mayor, motion to adjourn.
Any other business to come before this?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all four say aye.
Aye.
Motion, meeting adjourned. Jesse, you got it all under control now?
It's been a job, I can tell you that. Should have probably waited one more month, but it's what it is, so.
All I could say is thank you, good luck, and do your best.